I found them in my guest bedroom. My husband of 7 years and my best friend since college, wrapped in my sheets, in my house, while I was supposed to be at a work conference that got canceled at the last minute. But here's the part that made my blood run cold. When they saw me standing in the doorway, she didn't look guilty. She looked triumphant. I know what you're thinking. How could I not see this coming? Stay with me, because what led to this moment is so calculated, so twisted, that I'm still processing it months later. And trust me, the revenge, it was worth every second of planning. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Emma, and for 7 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage. David was my college sweetheart, the kind of guy who still brought me coffee in bed on Sundays and left sticky notes on the bathroom mirror telling me I was beautiful. We had our rough patches like any couple, but we always worked through them. And Rachel? She'd been my best friend for 12 years. She was my maid of honor. She held my hand through 2 miscarriages. She was the person I called when I couldn't call anyone else. Rachel was single, always had been for as long as I'd known her. A string of failed relationships, guys who weren't ready to commit, the usual story. I felt terrible for her, honestly. David and I would have her over for dinner at least twice a week because I hated the thought of her eating alone in that apartment. She'd curl up on our couch with a glass of wine and tell us about her latest dating disaster, and we'd laugh and commiserate. She was family. About 6 months before I found them together, things started shifting. David became distant. Not in an obvious way. He still kissed me goodbye in the mornings, still asked about my day, but there was something off. He started working late more often. His phone was always face down on the counter. When I'd walk into a room, he'd quickly close his laptop. Classic signs, right? But I trusted him completely. It never even crossed my mind that he might be cheating. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Rachel had been poisoning him against me for months. She'd been planting seeds, tiny little comments here and there. Emma seems stressed lately, doesn't she? Has she been coming home late from work? I saw her having coffee with some guy downtown, probably just a coworker. I'm sure it's nothing. Drip, drip, drip. A slow erosion of trust disguised as concern. But that wasn't even the worst part. She created fake evidence. She made a burner Instagram account and sent David flirty messages pretending to be a man I worked with. She photoshopped images of text conversations that never happened. She even went so far as to hire someone to call our house phone asking for me, then told David she'd overheard me whispering on the phone late at night. It was methodical. It was insane. And it worked. David started pulling away from me, convinced I was having an affair. And who was there to comfort him? Rachel, of course. Sweet, supportive Rachel, who would come over when I was at work and listen to his fears, tell him she couldn't believe I would do this to him, offer him a shoulder to cry on. She played the long game, and she played it perfectly. The night I found them, I wasn't supposed to be home. I'd told David I had a 3-day conference in Chicago. Rachel knew this too. I'd complained to her about having to go just 2 days before. But my boss got food poisoning the morning we were supposed to leave, and the whole trip got canceled. I texted David to let him know I'd be home, but he didn't respond. I figured his phone was dead, or he was in a meeting. I pulled into our driveway around 8 p.m. Rachel's car was parked on the street. That wasn't unusual. She had a key to our house and would sometimes come over to watch Netflix when she was lonely and I was out of town. But something felt wrong. The living room was dark. The house was too quiet. I walked upstairs, and I heard them before I saw them. Low voices coming from the guest bedroom. The door was cracked open, and when I pushed it wider, there they were. My husband, my best friend, in my house, in my bed. What I found next changed everything. Because when I confronted them, when I was standing there shaking and crying and demanding to know how long this had been going on, Rachel said something I will never forget. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "He deserves better than a cheater, Emma. I was just showing him what real loyalty looks like." I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. David jumped in then, angry and defensive, saying he'd seen the messages. He knew about the affair I'd been having. He'd been living with this for months. I was completely blindsided. What messages? What affair? I'd never cheated on him in my life. I'd never even thought about it. That's when Rachel made her mistake. She got too confident. She pulled out her phone to show me proof, screenshots of text conversations I'd supposedly had with a coworker named Marcus. But I knew immediately they were fake because Marcus had left our company 4 months ago and moved to Seattle. The timestamps on the messages were from 2 weeks ago. I pointed this out and I watched her face change. Just for a second, the mask slipped. David saw it too. I could see the doubt creeping into his expression. I grabbed my own phone and pulled up my real text history, my call logs, my location data from Google Maps. I had nothing to hide, and I was going to prove it right then and there. Call Marcus, I said. Right now. Call him and ask him if he's ever sent me a single personal message. Rachel tried to backtrack, saying maybe she was confused about the timeline. Maybe she'd made a mistake. But it was too late. David was looking at her differently now, and she knew it. The next 3 hours were brutal. We sat in the living room, all 3 of us, and went through every piece of evidence Rachel had fed David. The burner Instagram account that had messaged him? I'd never heard of it until that moment. The mysterious phone calls? I pulled our phone records. Nothing. The coffee date she'd supposedly witnessed? I showed David my credit card statement. I'd been in a client meeting across town that entire day. David broke down, completely fell apart. He'd been so convinced, so certain that I'd betrayed him, and Rachel had been there every step of the way, confirming his worst fears, offering comfort, slowly turning that comfort into something else. She'd manipulated both of us, and she'd done it so carefully that neither of us had seen it coming. And what I did next? Most people told me I'd gone too far. But I didn't care. I kicked them both out that night. David went to a hotel, Rachel went back to her apartment. I sat alone in my house until 3 a.m., and then I got to work. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what she'd done. First, I compiled everything. Every fake screenshot, every manipulated message, every lie. I created a detailed timeline with proof of where I actually was during each alleged affair encounter. I included David's testimony because once he realized what she'd done, he was horrified and wanted to help expose her. Then I contacted a lawyer. Not for divorce. David and I had a lot to work through, but we both wanted to try, but to explore whether Rachel's actions constituted fraud, defamation, or harassment. Turns out, fabricating evidence of infidelity can have legal consequences. Who knew? But the real revenge? I told the truth. I posted a carefully worded statement on Facebook, explaining what had happened, naming no names, but providing enough detail that our mutual friends could connect the dots. I detailed the manipulation, the fake evidence, the calculated destruction of my marriage. Within hours, Rachel's phone was blowing up, friends confronting her, people who'd known us both for years, demanding answers. She tried to deny it at first, said I was lying, that I was bitter about being caught. But I'd already sent the evidence to 3 of our closest mutual friends, including her own sister. Screenshots of the fake Instagram account she'd created, the photoshopped messages with metadata showing they'd been altered, phone records proving the mysterious calls never existed. The truth came out, piece by piece, and her reputation crumbled. She lost friends. She lost her standing in our social circle. People stopped inviting her to things, stopped trusting her. Her sister cut her off completely. The guy she'd started dating right after the affair ended, because of course she moved on that quickly, dumped her when he found out what she'd done. She even had to leave our gym, because people would literally turn their backs on her in the locker room. And David and I, we're in therapy. It's not easy. Some days I look at him and I'm still so angry that he believed her lies, that he slept with my best friend instead of just talking to me. But some days I remember that he was a victim too, manipulated by someone we both trusted. We're taking it slow. We've moved the guest bedroom furniture out. I couldn't stand looking at that bed anymore. We're rebuilding trust, piece by piece, day by day. I don't know if we'll make it, but I do know that I'm not the same person I was before this happened. I'm stronger now. I don't ignore red flags. I don't assume everyone has good intentions. And I will never, ever let someone make me feel small again. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. Manipulative people are good at what they do. They exploit trust, they twist reality, they make you doubt yourself. But the truth always comes out eventually. Always. You are stronger than you think you are. You will survive this. And one day you'll wake up and realize that the person who betrayed you did you a favor. They showed you who they really were, and they gave you the chance to build something better without them. If this story resonated with you, subscribe. I share a new story every single week. And drop a comment below if you've ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted. You are not alone, and you will get through this.